So I'm going to tell you a story called The Three Pieces of Gold. These are the words in the story, in this word cloud. You can see some of the words are repeated very often, like wife, old, poor. You've got 2 minutes to ask me questions and find out as much as you can about the story. And you can start.
Is that a family-based story, or?
It's kind of about family. It's about the man and his wife and his baby who he left behind.
Before this poor man, because they were a couple, no? A poor
Yes.
man and wife. Before he earned this gold, they were happy?
No, they were very poor. So he left his wife and his baby to go and find money in another place, to find work in another country. And there he earned 3 pieces of gold in 20 years.
And what did the river do in this story?
To get back home, he had to cross the river, but the problem was, the river was very deep because of rain.
How could he cross the river if the river was with that challenge?
Well, he needed a horse to cross and to find a bridge, but he didn't have a horse.
So he bought a horse?
No, because he didn't have. When he got to the river, he had already used the gold. He had already used the 3 pieces of gold for something else.
No, it was a poor guy.
He was poor again, but not because he had used his gold to get wisdom, to get advice.
I'm curious. There are birds. What do you have this about this story?
The birds are really important because these birds are vultures. You know vultures? Vultures are birds which eat. What do they eat? Vultures. They're big birds and they eat dead animals. Vultures.
Yes, I know.
And these vultures were really important in the story.
Yes, usually when we see these big birds in the sky,
They're circling around.
yes, it means that there is a
Something
dead
dead.
animal.
Dead animal, yes, exactly. Okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow, it's
Okay.
difficult to guess.
He had to go
Maybe
back
a
to
family?
his family, but he had trouble during his way back to home, and he had to cross a river which was flooding.
Yes.
The river was flooding, and but he already. But during his way back, before he reached the river, he had already used all the gold he earned.
Yes.
Please listen to the story and see if what you imagined is the same as the story. Okay? Are you ready? Once upon a time there was a young man called Ali, but Ali was sad because he was poor and he could no longer earn money to look after his young wife and his baby son. So he said to his wife, I must leave and travel far away. And when I have enough, then I will return, but it may take a long time. And he set off away from his wife and he travelled and travelled into other lands where he had never been before. Finally, he came to a mill. And he asked the mill owner for work, and the mill owner trusted him and gave him work. And there he helped the mill owner to grind the flour, and there they baked bread. And year after year, Ali worked for the mill owner. But the work was hard, and Ali only earned a little, just enough to live. And soon year after year passed until he had been away for 20 years. And one night, he woke up and he remembered his wife and he thought, no longer can I be away from her. So So he went to the mill owner the next morning and said, I am going. I am leaving and I am returning to my home. And the mill owner said, Ali, you have worked hard for me. All I can give you is all that I have. Take these 3 pieces of gold. And Ali, he gladly took the gold, but was this going to be enough? He set off for his home, and soon he met 3 men, and they walked along together. 2 of the men were young, and they talked to him, and they were friendly, but the 3rd man was strange and old. He did not speak, but he always looked up at the birds as they flew from one tree to the next, and he laughed as the birds sang. And Ali asked the 2 young men, who is that? This is our father. Our father is a wise man. Our father can understand the language of birds. Is it true? Said Ali. Why does he never speak? Oh, his speech costs. His speech is dear. In his speech there is much wisdom. You can learn so much from him. And Ali thought about this as they walked along together and came towards his home, which was still a distance ahead. And Ali turned to the old man and he said, look, here is a piece of gold. I will give you a piece of gold if you will give me 1 piece of wisdom. And he gave the old man a piece of gold, and the old man smiled and his eyes shone. And he said, young man, never cross a river after heavy rain. Well, Ali walked on and thought, this advice, how can it help me? He walked on and he felt the other 2 gold coins in his pocket, and he wondered what he should do. Should I ask him for another piece of advice? Do you think I should?
Yeah.
Sometimes, I think
No. Keep the gold. Why?
Yes. No, because I thought that when I will maybe sell it, I will have enough money.
I need the money, don't
Yes,
I?
I need the money.
To get home to my wife
Yes,
after
so that
20
I
years.
went to work.
But you think I should spend the gold?
Yes, I think knowledge is more important than
But
money.
if,
Knowledge
If
is
I
more
rush
important
it,
than money. Do you agree?
I think money is more important because
I think I should keep the gold.
gold, yes.
yes.
Who thinks I should keep the gold? Who thinks I should buy more advice? Well, Ali, he couldn't decide, but then he could no longer stop himself, and he said, I will have another piece of advice from you. Here, take another piece of gold. And the old man looked at Ali and he said, listen closely. When you see vultures circling in the sky above, go and see. Go and see. What does this mean? Many times I have seen vultures circling in the sky, but I've always gone past. What should I go and see? And on he walked and he wondered about the 2 pieces of advice. I've only got 1 more piece of gold. I should bring this home to my wife. But as he walked along, he couldn't stop himself from wondering. What would the 3rd piece of advice be if he spent this piece of gold? Shall I ask? What do you think I should do, Natavan?
Can ask.
You think I should ask? You think I should spend my gold? Why?
Because I think it will help him in the future.
You think it will help me?
Yeah.
Yes. Maybe this advice can save my life.
Could be.
Who thinks I should take the advice? Who thinks I should buy some more advice? 1,
Yes.
2.
Yeah, because he started already, now he must end it.
Very well, said Ali. And he gave the 3rd piece of advice to the old man. He said, please tell me. And the old man looked at him and said, never, young man, never act in anger. Always count to 20 before you act. in anger. Well, soon it was time. The old man and the two young men, they went another way. But Ali went on, and as he came towards the great river, it began to rain. The rain was soft at first, but soon it became steady, and then it became hard. And the sky grew dark, and black clouds formed, and there were a great crash of thunder. And the heavens opened, and the sky emptied water onto the ground below. Ali went on, pressing through the rain, and finally came, after the storm, to the river. And the river ran deep, but the surface was calm. And Ali wondered, perhaps the water seems calm. Perhaps I can cross. Perhaps I can wade. Perhaps I can swim. Shall I cross the river?
No, remember the advice.
And then Ali remembered
Yes,
the old man's advice. The old man who could understand the speech of birds. And what was his advice?
Never cross the river.
During rain.
It's a heavy rain.
After the heavy rain.
Never cross the river after heavy rain. And Ali, he waited. He wondered. And as he waited there, a young man rode up. A rich young man on a fine horse. And he said, "Young man, what are you doing here?" And Ali said, "I am waiting. The river is deep." "Watch and learn," said the young man, the rich young man. "Watch and learn." And he rode his horse into the river. But underneath the surface, there was a strong current. And the young man was carried down the river and away. And Ali watched, and he saw the horse swimming to the shore. But the young man had drowned. And Ali, he went and he fetched the horse. And he looked after that horse, and he fed the horse, and it was a fine animal. And Ali, who had never owned anything in his life, he climbed onto the back of that horse, and he began to ride along the river. He rode along the river until finally he came to a bridge. And he crossed the bridge on that fine horse, and on he came towards his home. And now as he came through the forest, he looked up, and he saw 3 vultures circling, hovering overhead. I should continue back to my wife. Should I?
No, he remembered the advice.
He remembered the second piece of advice. And what was the advice?
Wait 20 seconds.
No,
No,
always that you see the vultures, you must go there and see.
You must go and see.
Yes.
Go and see. So Ali, he climbed down from the horse, and he tied the horse to a tree, and he went between the trees up a hill. And underneath where the vultures, he found 3 dead men. And the 3 dead men were covered in blood. And next to them were guns. And they had shot each other. And among them was a bag full of gold. And Ali knew that these men were robbers. And that they had killed each other in jealousy.
Yes.
Each wanting the gold for himself.
Mhm.
And Ali thought, he picked up the sack full of gold. He carried it on his back. And then he picked up one of the guns. And he went back down through the trees, and he climbed onto the horse. And he loaded the horse with the gold, and he put the gun in his clothes, and he rode on towards his home. And a long time the journey went, and when he reached home it was already getting dark. And he came towards his house, and then he stopped. And he climbed down from the horse, and he thought, my wife will be happy. Look, I have come back a rich man. He left the gold on the horse, and he just took the gun and he went towards the house. And as he came, he heard voices. And he looked through the window. And there was his wife, facing the window. But she was talking to another man. What is this? My wife has forgotten me. My wife has another man. Oh, and in his anger he drew the gun from his pocket and he pointed it through the window at the back of the man's head and was just about, shall I kill him?
No. He remembered the son's advice.
What was the third piece of advice?
Always that if you are hungry, wait 20 seconds.
Count
20%, yes.
Ali, in his anger, he began to count. Although he wanted to shoot, he began to count 1 and 2. But who is this man that my wife smiles and laughs at with love in her eyes? 9 and 10. This man should be killed. And he prepared to pull the trigger. 11 and 12. He was angry now. 15 and 16 and 17. I will kill him. And then he heard. Mother, said the man. Mother! And Ali put down the gun, and with tears running down his face, he went into the house, and there was his son, 20 years old, and his wife. And he put his arms around them, and he wept tears of joy. All thanks to the wisdom of the man who knew the language of birds, with whom he had given his 3 pieces of gold. How was the story that you imagined before, how was it similar to the story that I told?
At the beginning, it was similar.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
At the end, no.
Did you?
The
Yeah.
middle at the
You created your own story.
Yes, but at the beginning was
Quite similar.
That's completely different.
Completely different.
Completely different.
I thought it was a story, not about a knowledge and things like that. It is about a family-centered story and the person who...
Yeah. Well, the family exposition came in right at the beginning and at the end, really. Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't think about the knowledge.
Yes, it's a wisdom story, really,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah, I thought about it could be about peace, how he tried to feed the family and things like that.
Yeah,
Not
nice. I wish I could listen to your stories that you imagine. But in the story that I told, that I learned from Ali, which moment is your favourite moment in that story?
The part of when he got home and saw a man talking with his wife.
What did you think? Did you think it was his son?
Yes, I thought it was the son, but maybe you will say that the man will pull the trigger.
You thought he was going to kill his son? So when he's pointing the gun at the man through the window, did you guess it was his son?
Yes, I thought. Yes.
You didn't?
I thought that was she married again.
You thought she married again?
Yes, but it was a long time.
20 years.
Yes.
It's normal.
Yes, it's normal.
But I thought you said in the beginning of the story, you said that the man Ali left his wife and his son.
Yes, I said it very quickly.
Yes.
But you remembered.
Yes.
Well done. Well done. So your favourite moment is the moment when he's pointing the gun through the window.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's interesting. He's got another moment, a different moment.
He got the gold. Back.
Oh, when he found the gold with the 3 dead robbers. Yeah.
Not about the
Robbers.
robbers. Whatever it is, he is rich because he obeyed
The advice.
advice.
So you see the gold. You go and you find the robbers, and you, as Tasman said, you pick up the gold. So you're picking up the gold. Now I am rich. 3 2, 1, and pick up the gun. And freeze. Don't move. Thank you. And the third one, which is Junichi and Hussein's image, is you see a man with your wife when you get home. So you take the gun, you point it through the window, and you are full of anger, but you must count. 3, 2, 1, hold the gun, point it through the gun, and freeze! Right up on his horse. And this young man is very proud, rich, and arrogant. Watch and learn. So can you have that conversation, please? So who is Ali, and who is the young man on the horse?
You need now.
More money.
Look at me. I will cross my voice now.
Look at the